My level of patience has dramatically increased after 6 years of being a stay-at-home parent. The amount of times that you are interrupted mid-sentence. I can go get him. I have a feeling he pooped his pants. My name is Christopher Hughes. I have 2 children, and I've been a stay-at-home dad for 6 years.
I've been a stay-at-home dad for 13 years.
And I've been a stay-at-home dad for approximately 8 years.
And I officially became a stay-at-home dad about 3.5 years ago.
There is a new report out about stay-at-home dads.
2 of my good buddies are stay-at-home dads. The work,
It is tough.
I couldn't do it.
We've seen a couple of incredible, tremendous changes in the United States since the 1960s and second wave feminism. First and foremost, it's the dramatic increase in women's presence in the paid labor force. The other pretty significant change, much more recently, just the last generation, is how involved fathers are in childcare.
We've seen a significant increase in the share of hours that fathers spend on household chores and on childcare. That said, there still is a big gap between the amount of time that mothers devote. So while we've seen a little bit of a closing of the gap, there still is a significant difference between mothers and fathers. And part of the change that we've seen is attributable to the fact that many more mothers are working outside of the home now.
My wife is a physician and a professor at a medical school.
I could, have 2 kids during my medical school training and residency because, I had a great support person and who was willing to give up his career.
I began working in restaurants when I was 15 and then worked until I was 30 before I gave up my career to start staying home with the kids.
I was in law school, and then we implicitly decided that it would be best if I stay home with our son and she'd go off and bring home the bacon, so to speak.
I never made the assumption that I would stay home. The assumption that is my wife would. I loved what I did and I was good at it, but I would never make the money that she did.
I had a great opportunity to stay at home. I was a police officer in Detroit and I got hurt on the job. So I was given, I guess you would call it like an early retirement.
It probably would have cost $60,000 a year to have somebody watch our kids.
Because of the prices and me not working full-time, we decided that if I were to start working part-time, that would barely cover the costs of the daycare.
We were paying something around $1,500 a month for childcare, which was a big chunk of my paycheck that I was bringing home. And it did get bothersome to me that I was working basically to have someone else watch my kids.
People still say that women should be the primary caretaker. They should be the ones who take time off of work when a new child enters the family, and vice versa. Public polling data says that men are expected to be the breadwinners.
So there's this sort of tension between what's going on in the labor force and the achievements and advances that women have made, but then these societal attitudes that are kind of lagging some of those trends.
My mom definitely thought that it did not sound very ambitious to want to be a stay-at-home parent.
A friend of my wife told her that she cannot ever marry a man who's not working. Well, my job is here with me at home when I'm teaching him in school and when I'm feeding him and bathing him, make sure he does his homework, playing with him. Job does not always mean paycheck. Job to me means responsibility.
The experience of stay-at-home dads today really mirrors the experiences of stay-at-home moms for generations. The feelings on one hand of kind of isolation and alienation from others, and the challenges, the mundane, repetitive nature of parenting day after day after day.
You want to give all your Barbies away? Okay. The challenges would be the feeling of not being appreciated sometimes. Like if you spend a whole day doing something and you're so excited, like when your spouse comes home and you want them to like notice that you did something or got something done, that can be tough sometimes because the kids definitely at their age, don't show much appreciation.
One of the biggest struggles that we have is the isolation and your value and self-worth. It is a difficult question to answer because you don't have that external paycheck or that promotion to show you what you're worth to your family.
The isolation and just that sense of being in prison, it can take a toll.
When you're caring for a little one, you can't have a conversation with him outside of Barbies and the playhouse and everything. And there's times when you just want to talk to someone.
I don't believe that I know any other stay-at-home dads in person. I have friends that are stay-at-home moms that I can kind of express our common struggles. They're not identical struggles.
It's really hard because even like on some of the Facebook groups and stuff, it'll be stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home moms. But the large majority, I would send an invite to them and I would never hear anything back from them.
Our co-founder, Matt Schneider, tried to join a local moms group in his neighborhood. And they very politely and said, you seem like a really good guy, but the way the rules are for our group, it's too uncomfortable. You know, a lot of guys feel isolated and lonely, and we're definitely able to foster a sense of belonging and community to these guys. We were baby wearing our little ones at museums. We were going for strolls over the Brooklyn Bridge, and we were taking parent me classes, and just being surrounded by this really active, hands-on community of dads really enabled me to embrace my role as an at-home dad.
I wrote a book called The Ultimate Stay-at-Home Dad, Your Essential Manual for Being a Full-Time Father, that comes out October 2021. And I hope that that book is able to help the dads in a way that I didn't have when I first started.
If we compare U.S. families with those of comparable nations in Northern Europe, Scandinavia in particular, we find that U.S. family leave policies are pretty meager. So in order to foster gender equality and gender progress, what the countries did is they passed use it or lose it policies, whereby men had to take X number of weeks or months of paid family leave, otherwise it would just disappear. So that policy change really led to a cultural shift, whereby it has become more acceptable for men to be stay-at-home dads. If the United States wants to have similar changes to our gendered work-family arrangements, dynamics, we need to pass generous paid family leave policies. We've seen another spike in the number of stay-at-home dads and moms. Many of those dads, by force, enjoyed spending time with their kids and liked parenting, but ultimately they wanted to get back into the workforce. Their identity was wrapped up in their work. If we compare them with stay-at-home dads who chose to stay at home in agreement with their partners typically, they were the ones who were much more comfortable with this new situation.
I still enjoy cooking, and I feel that it definitely strengthens my ability to be a stay-at-home parent. Feeling the kind of accomplishment that you do at a career is different than the kind of accomplishments that you feel as a stay-at-home parent, because when you stay at home, you look more in the accomplishments of your family as a whole.
I'm in training to be a part-time firefighter for the city of Farmington Hills. I have the need to be an asset to the family more than I already am.
I feel that I can return to law school when I feel the time is right. And in the meantime, I'm the father, the cook, the counselor, the nurse. I have all these different hats and all these different professions. as a stay-at-home dad?
Look, I can chop wood, I can fix cars, I can drink whiskey, I can write a novel, I can do all that. And I can also sew, and I can bake, and I can give people hugs. You know, the misconception that my masculinity is tied to my job is a myth.
Some experts are saying this economic downturn unfairly targets women.
It actually does fall on women disproportionately at home during this time period. The homeschooling, the cooking and the housework, etc., the child care.
We found that working mothers felt like they were having to sort of pick up more of the slack in terms of the child care responsibilities, whether they had kids who were at home doing school or whether their daycare was closed. And then we also found that women were more likely to say that the challenge of sort of working and raising kids during COVID had had negative impacts on their careers, that they felt that they couldn't give 100% at work.
I think if you're two working parents right now or a single parent, it has got to be some of the most difficult time in your life. I do not know how you juggle a job and teaching and housework all at the same time. If I do this professionally, I'm a professional stay-at-home dad, and if I'm struggling, then my heart goes out to you.
Do you have to run right into your appointment?
No, actually, I had her move into the afternoon slot. She was fine with that. I'm home.
When my wife is working from home and seeing patients, the kids have definitely either barged into the office and interrupted her calls or banged on the door and tried to get in. And it's definitely challenging for her. I would say that staying at home with my children has aided my wife in her success throughout her career in order to pursue everything and accomplish what she has.